I'd like to thank everybody for showing up here. We got a good crowd here, and I just thought for fun, since we talked about it last time, about a little trivia. So I whipped up a little trivia, 10 questions, and I just want to see how this works out. So I'm going to switch this over to my PowerPoint and see if I know what I'm doing here. There we go. This is just for fun. I just wanted to see how everything's going. And if it's too easy, let me know. If it's too hard, let me know. All right, so we're going to go with this one right here. It's only 10 questions. All right, so let's see. Everybody can see that, right? What is the most common jersey number retired in all of baseball? All right.
9.
I was going to say
we'll
8.
I'll say 42.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the 42 doesn't count.
Ah.
I'm talking about the one that's not 42.
Okay.
All right. So then let's see what we got here. Who's the only player to have the number retired by 3 teams?
Nolan Ryan.
Not
No?
Nolan Ryan.
Ah.
All right. What's the highest number to be retired by a team? This one's kind of
99,
tricky.
Carlton Fisk.
Bingo. That's it.
Oh, okay. I was going to say 51, but
72.
yeah.
All right. Who was the first team to put jersey numbers on their jerseys?
Oh, that'll be the Yankees.
Yankees.
Yeah, Yankees.
That's kind of like a trick question. We'll get back to that one.
Ah.
All right. So what number did Babe Ruth wear while he was coaching the Brooklyn Dodgers? Nobody? Anybody want to take a guess? All right. We'll come back to that one. All right. What year was the first All-Star game played? This one might be there in at the next meeting when we have the conference, because it is in Chicago. The first one was 1933.
Right.
This one I ask people all the time to see if they know this one. What is Jackie Robinson's middle
Oh,
name?
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt.
That one's the easiest one so far, right?
Yeah.
All right. This one threw everybody off. NHL superstar Wayne Gretzky's childhood dream was to pitch for an MLB team, but what team was it? Did anybody know that?
The Tigers? I didn't know that. Yeah.
Who said Tigers?
Me.
The Tigers.
It is, yeah. Probably because Gordie Howe played in Detroit.
Mm-hmm. That's why.
Yeah.
All right. What team played at Hilltop Park?
The Highlanders.
That is true.
Yeah.
All right. Who's the only player to achieve 3
triple
crowns? Nobody? All right. So here's the answers for them all. Number 20 is the most commonly retired number. 11 different teams.
Okay. That makes
Right?
sense.
Frank Robinson's number is the only number retired 3 times. Happens to be number 20.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We got the Carlton Fisk one without a problem.
Yeah.
Cleveland Indians started wearing on the sleeves of their shirt in 1916 for 1 season. Then the Yankees did it in 1929. They put it on the back. Babe Ruth wore number 35 when he was a manager for the coach for the Dodgers. 33, we went through that one. Roosevelt, Tigers, Highlanders, Yankees.
Islanders. Yeah.
Oscar Charleston. 3 triple crowns.
That's a good
question.
Yes.
Yeah, 3 triple crowns. And he got 2 of them back to back. All right, so that's all the fun I'm gonna get. And I'm gonna turn it over. How do I get back over there? Stop sharing.
Yeah, stop sharing. And then I think if you go to your share screen and you hit options, you can let everyone share, and then I can share my screen.
All right, share.
Yeah, and there should be a little arrow on that, little carrot. And so,
It says multiple participants can share simultaneously.
yeah, I enable all of that. I just enable all of that. And then, okay, yep, I have it now. So, thanks. Okay,
All right,
so you're ready for me?
Go ahead, Adam, take it away.
Okay, well, thanks, Tom, and everyone for having me tonight. My name is Adam Korengold. I'm a member in the Baltimore, D.C. area. So I go to the Baltimore chapter and the D.C. chapter kind of interchangeably, but in this, pandemic environment, we can pretty much talk to all the chapters. So the way I'm seeing this talk tonight, it's really good to be with all of you, is I see this as kind of like a workshop of some research that I'm thinking about for maybe a baseball research journal article. And where this comes from is just getting into my background a little bit. I've been a SABR member since 2020, but in 2018 I started working as an analytics lead at the National Library of Medicine, which is a part of the National Institutes of Health. And one of the things that my team and I do is we take all of the statistics that our products generate. So we run like about 30 different health information products, and we track digital analytics, like how many page views and how many users are coming to the different websites. We also do user experience research, and a big part of what we do is making visuals with this so that we can go to the people who work with those products and go to our leadership and say, well, here's how all those different products are performing. And this is something that I've been doing professionally for a long time, really since I finished graduate school in 2000 or so, or 1999. And I also teach data visualization in the graduate program at the Maryland Institute College of Art, which is really cool because this program is meant to teach graphic designers how to do deeper analytics and visualize data, but it's an art school. So we have that kind of framework of aesthetics and art and design that's really, really interesting. And the common thread here is that we use visuals to show trends in the data in new, fresh, and interesting ways, and we teach people how to do it. So the reason why we do this, and this is something that I've been talking with a lot of SABR members about for the last year or so, that we don't do a whole lot of data visualization. We have really good quantitative researchers, we write really good papers, but we don't really make a lot of interactive or non-interactive charts and graphs to make those analyses more understandable to audiences that are more visual. So when you talk about putting something on a web page, or even putting something on TikTok or on Instagram, it has to be really visual. A white paper won't work in the same way. So we visualize data to make it more understandable to more people. And feel free to stop me at any time, by the way, if you have questions. I want this to be a really interactive conversation, and I'll also show you some of these visualizations so we can actually see how they move, basically, when you click on different things. I'm not going to get into a great deal about the basics of data visualization because that's a huge topic on its own. We could talk about this for 3 hours. You can read my baseball research journal paper, which if you haven't gotten it in your mailbox as part of the BRJ, you should be getting it any day now for more. But there's some sound practices that are good to follow. The first thing is to know your audience. So, we think of our SABR members as people who are really good at research. They're really comfortable with numbers, But when we go beyond SABR and we think about, well, I want to put something on my social media feed, or I want to put something on a website, or do a presentation, every audience isn't going to respond to those really in-depth data the same way. And the best example, or the best way to think about this is as personas. So to think about the people who you're going to be doing this for, and the problems, challenges, or attributes that might distinguish them. So we're not really talking about their demographics, but we're talking about kind of who they are, what they like, what they don't like, how they want to get their information. And the best vision that I've seen of this is what I have right here. So King Charles and Ozzy Osbourne are both men born in 1948, raised in the UK, married twice, who live in castles and are wealthy and famous. But I don't think anyone would consider them to be similar personas. King Charles doesn't bite the heads off bats, and Ozzy Osbourne is not the sovereign of the United Kingdom. The other thing that's really important, and this shouldn't be a challenge, this is pretty intuitive for SABR members, is to know your data. If any of you have done baseball research, you probably know how to get a clean data set that you can link to whatever application you want to use. If you're just analyzing the numbers, you know how to make sure you've got a clean data set so you can run the numbers on it. And the main thing here, if you want to get into this sort of thing, is to be tool agnostic. It doesn't really matter what you want to use, but use what you're comfortable with. And this is something that I tell my students too, that embarking on a big project isn't necessarily the time when you want to try something that's totally new to you, but work in what's familiar to you. Also, think of whether you're writing a research paper or creating a visual, have a story in mind. Think about a problem, setting up that problem. You have a rising action, you have a climax, you have a falling action, and then you have some kind of resolution. And this is something that works basically as a narrative to walk people through the information that you're giving them, and you can set it up almost in a situation, action, result framework. So, what was the situation that you were experiencing? What did you do? What was the action? And what was the result? It doesn't have to be on a computer. When Tom and I first got on the phone tonight, we started out talking about this, where these are paintings that I've made of data visualization. So for each of them, the left one is Joanne Weaver's batting average compared to Ted Williams, Rogers Hornsby, and Josh Gibson. And that red circle is Joanne Weaver's 429 average. And I used the area of the circle formula to calculate the size of those circles. And then on the right, it's Cool Papa Bell and Ricky Henderson's base stealing totals. So Cool Papa Bell is in red, Ricky Henderson's in blue. And so what you see there, the lines are the number of standard deviations above the mean for the 200 highest career base stealers in the Negro Leagues and in the major leagues during their eras. So while Cool Papa Bell only had a fraction of Ricky Henderson's stolen bases, he was better than Ricky Henderson was compared to his peers. So I'll stop here for a second. And I know I've gone through a lot here, but it might be a little bit like drinking from a fire hose, but what are your impressions so far about generally how we can use data visualization in baseball research? I'm kind of setting the stage for the analysis that I did. Like, does this sound like
awesome? I read your article in that in the magazine, and it just blew my mind. I'm a numbers guy. I love numbers, and it just got to a point where I was overwhelmed and intimidated, and it just drove me to want to know more about it.
Okay, great. So that's a,
guys. Anybody else want to chime in?
okay.
Do
Great.
you have anything to add?
Okay, well that's a really good jumping off point into the next section. So is not okay. This can be really overwhelming, and one of the important things about getting into any kind of visualization, especially, is you want to have a pretty narrow focus. So what I wanted to focus on tonight is a really simple question. Did the rule changes that MLB is planning to implement in 2023 impact minor league play when they were done at the single A level this past year in 2022? So just to set the stage a little bit here, to set up the problem. So minor league baseball shut down for all of 2020. And for a portion of 2021, it took them a couple months to ramp up and have people in the stands and have a full slate of games. So for 2022, which was the first full post-pandemic season, MILB realigned. This was actually done in 2021, and instituted rule changes in low A that were intended to speed games and increase scoring. This was all Rob Manfred's doing. I think we can talk about how much we love him or hate him. This is not going to be an argument against Rob Manfred or for Rob Manfred. It's simply to look at those rule changes and ask, well, did they do what they intended to do? And the three major rule changes were restricting the infield shift, using a pitch clock, and limiting the pitcher's pickoff moves, I think, to 2 pickoff moves for every half inning. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong on that. And the intent was that MLB will adopt these changes for the 2023 season. Now, as an analyst, what I'd rather see for an experiment like this is more than 1 year's worth of data, because what the ideal way of structuring this is to have 1 year of data for 2019, which was the last full minor league season, or more than 1 year, and more than 1 year of experimental data for the play under the new rules. The best we could do is have an apples to apples comparison, or as much of an apples to apples comparison as we can, because there was a realignment and there were some teams that moved higher in the minor league system, some that moved lower. So for example, my hometown Potomac Nationals went from being high A to low A, and they moved from Woodbridge to Fredericksburg. So, and there were some other teams that moved up or down. So the Washington Nationals high A affiliate is now in Wilmington, Delaware, and they used to be in the same league as the Potomac, then Frederick Nationals, which is now again called the Carolina League. So the experimental design, the data design, was I collected data for the 3 low A leagues, which are the Carolina, the Florida State, and the California League, for the 2019 and 22 seasons. So there would be an relatively even basis for comparison between the 2 years. And my data source was Baseball Reference, which collects team-level minor league data. So you can't really find player-level data, but they did have team-level data, which was fine. The audience, as I defined it, is the SABR membership. So to do what I'm doing right now, to take it in front of one or more chapters, and as full disclosure, I'm interested in your feedback for a future article, but also to the broader audience of baseball fans who are interested in this question might be real data focused, like you mentioned, Tom, really comfortable with numbers, but where they might be interested in seeing this represented in a visual way. So they don't have to crunch the numbers themselves, but they can see what they're actually doing. And this is that situation, action, result framework that I talked about before. What was the initial problem? What did we do? And what did we learn? So I wanted to go a little bit into the methodology here. So I built 3 spreadsheets using those baseball reference data for batting, pitching, fielding, and I also did a 4th spreadsheet for geographic location. So this is what it looks like in a Google sheet, which works really similarly to the way an Excel spreadsheet does. To combine the files, I wanted to have some fields that were the same. So whether you're looking at the pitching spreadsheet, the batting spreadsheet, or the fielding spreadsheet, all of them will have the team name, the league, and the season that we're talking about in the affiliate. And what that lets you do is, I tend to work in Tableau Public, which is the free version of Tableau. That's a data visualization software tool, and it's free. So I'm able to load every sheet, to link every sheet to what's called a workbook. And then I create a union of all of those tables. And because I've done this, where I've had some common data elements, I'm able to tell Tableau, I want you to take all 3 of these sheets and I want you to combine them into one sheet. And I want you to take the data, say, for the Potomac Nationals in 2019 for batting, fielding, and pitching, and I want you to put that in the same row so that we can compare them. And then what that lets me do is create this dashboard here. So what I wanted to do is compare pitching stats, so ERA versus walks and hits per inning pitched, on-base percentage by runs per game, errors and double plays per game, and then stolen bases by team and league. And I wanted to compare those 2019 stats to the 2022 stats and see what differences and similarities there are. So what I'll do is I'll go through the results really quickly here, and then I'll stop sharing this, and then I'll go directly to the Tableau worksheet so that we can play with that a little bit. So what did we learn? Well, we learned that in 2021, ERA and WHIP were both up, and on-base average or on-base percentage and runs per game are also up. And so that's a really interesting dynamic, because it's telling us that pitching performance, we traded pitching performance for offense. And so you can look at that, and that maybe suggests that, you know, that kind of met this goal of promoting offense and making the game more exciting. But both errors and double plays were also up. I'm not sure why that might have happened. I'd be interested in maybe your thoughts on that. But if we're trying to promote excitement, you know, I would think that would have something to do with preventing the shift and preventing pickoff moves, that on the one hand, you're going to have more errors because the defense can't set itself up to handle a grounder quite as well, but double plays might increase because you're not able to pick off the runner at first base as much, and stolen bases are up for kind of the same reasons. So if the intent was to promote offense and to make the game more exciting, that season-long experiment seems to have been successful. But as an analyst, I would have rather seen more experimental data. So I'd rather be able to compare, say, 3 years pre-rule change to 3 years post-rule change, but we don't have that. So what I'll do is, go ahead. I'm going to switch documents now, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this so far.
Doesn't more offense mean longer games?
I don't think necessarily. That's a good question. I'd like to look into. I think there might be data on the average time for game length, but I didn't look at that here. It could potentially, because that was another element of the intent, right, to shorten games.
Right.
I think I did see a figure that games were actually shorter, and they were shorter than by about 20 minutes. So it was pretty substantial. I think that's a good point, but I didn't look at it in this analysis. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to maximize. Yeah.
Did this all take place also with the pitch testing, the 24-second clock? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Well, that's your 20 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 So the game's really the same length.
No, the game was shorter in 2022.
But if you take that clock out, the game is still the same. That's where that 20 minutes is from, right?
Elapsed.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Well,
No, I see. Yeah.
Tom, I see your point.
Mm-hmm.
The clock is going to sharpen not just the pitchers but the hitters too. Getting into the box quicker, stop playing with their Velcro on every part of their body there. I think that shows you it's going to be effective.
Effective, but is it going to be good for the game?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Pitching, that changes how we look at pitching going forward, with an asterisk, I guess, because
this is going to throw all the statistics off for all those years before this.
Of course, yeah. That's why I say
Yeah.
you're going to have to start putting an asterisk, post 2023, and it's going to change the game totally.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you said that, because that's exactly what we're seeing here. So if we look at 2019, and what the data viz lets you do is this legend here lets you segment the data by year. And so if we're looking at 2019, you can see the 2022 data in shadow here. So even though the slope of these trend lines for offense and pitching are practically identical, so we're not seeing changes to the fundamentals of the game necessarily. But what we are seeing is that in 2022, average performance goes down. So what I've done here is I've reversed the axes, because if you're in this upper right-hand corner, that means you have a low WHIP and a low ERA. So, think of that as flipping intuitively. So in 2020, or 2022 rather, we see a decline in pitching performance. So if you compare these red dots with these blue dots here, that's a decline in pitching performance compared to 2019. And then offensive performance, we see an improvement. So even though the trend line hasn't really changed, if you look at these shaded areas, there's a significant difference between 2019 and 2022. That's a pretty big change. So across the board, and it's a trade-off, that we're trading pitching performance for offensive performance, batting performance. And for errors and double plays, it's really interesting, because in 2022, we're seeing more errors, but we're also seeing more double plays. And by a double, I mean double plays turned, not double plays hit into. So, that dynamic in fielding performance, I think, is really interesting, because first of all, it's an inverse trend. If we compare the slopes of these two lines, they're the inverse of each other. So, that's just a really interesting dynamic there. And then looking at stolen bases, we're seeing a significant increase in stolen bases in all three leagues, the California, the Carolina, and the Florida State.
But you would expect that because of the fact that if you're limiting the amount of throwovers, the guy knows he can now run.
Absolutely.
I mean, one of the problems I have with all of this is why doesn't somebody go back and look at the TV telecast of the 50s and 60s and what the length of the times of those games were versus now? What are the big differences? Because changing the rules, to me, I'm totally against that. I would rather see what has changed that we need to eliminate. And I think, Mark talked about getting into the batter's box with all the increased gloves and all that. I mean, now you got the increased size of the base. You've got guys wearing stealing gloves, etc., which gives them another advantage for a stolen base.
Yeah.
Everything seems to be going the wrong way. Go back to basics and analyze what has caused the problem.
Right. Yeah. And don't forget, you also have television and you have.
I was just going to say that, Adam. Television timeouts.
Yeah.
If instead of having 5 commercials, have 4. That
right
then
well,
you're taking
That's
away
going to be
10
the
minutes.
money maker, though. They're
But
going
you can also do split screen TVs. You don't have to stop the game. The technology.
They
has
do
allowed
that
us
on
to-
MLB. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think that gets into a really interesting question, which is, what is the root cause of the problem? Are we addressing that root cause? And, what is the intent here? That, if we're talking about we want more excitement, well, okay, what does more excitement mean?
I know what I think more excitement means. It means less of 3 true outcomes. It means ball in play more. That's what excitement means to me.
Yeah.
Question about your error double play graph.
Oh, sure. Yeah, let me go back to that.
Are either of the 2 trend lines there significantly different from 0 in slope?
Yes, they are, especially the one for 2019. Yeah, this one, I'll mouse over them. And this is the neat thing about a visualization like this. So the slope here is about negative 0.25. Let me get there. Why is this being tricky? That's just telling me the confidence interval. So I'm going to go there. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so for this one, the slope is about 0.25. And then for this one, the slope is...
The p-value is 4.
Yeah.
So that's not statistically significant.
No, it's not. Yeah. That's why I would have liked for this to go on for more years, because there are only about 30 single A teams. So we're not talking about a large data set here, and you're exactly right that these are directionally useful numbers, but they're not statistically significant. No. Yeah.
And what about the greater horizontal or the greater variance in the double plays per game? That looks like that increased by a fair amount.
Yeah.
What would have caused that?
The increase in double plays?
The increase in the variance.
In the variance, yeah. That's a good question. One thing that I noticed is the player age was a lot lower in 2022.
If you have, I think some of that has to do with the pickoffs. If you can only throw over twice, and you have more guys going to second,
right, that'll limit
less
your
likely
double
to hit into a double play if they're on
right.
second.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
And that's a direct correlation for that two throwovers per batter. I mean, it's a direct correlation. It gives a guy a better opportunity actually to steal a base.
Right.
Hey guys, I wanted to ask a question about that because I think I have an understanding of what they're talking about that they're going to put in play here. And I think you're allowed a third throw over. If it is successful, then it is. But if it's not, then it's a ball. I believe that's the way they're going to implement this. Your third one, you better make it, or you're giving.
Or it's a ball. Okay.
I'm not certain about that. This is more of a question almost than it is a statement. That's the way I thought I understood it.
Yeah.
That's correct.
It is, okay. So, I mean, I don't know how that's going to impact strategy.
I do also wonder how the pitch clock is going to affect batters as far as, you know, the guys trying to get the ball to beat the pitch clock, the pitcher's trying to get the ball in to beat the pitch clock. What if the batter keeps stepping out? I mean, is there a rule now on the batter not stepping out or asking for time? Has that changed?
The batter has a time he needs to be in, as well as the pitcher needs a time that he needs to be.
Is that part of the rule, Sam?
It is. I think I don't know the number of seconds, but yes, a batter can have a strike called against him, or a pitcher can have a ball called against him. It works both ways.
Okay.
But a lot of it had to do with umpire discretion. He was the guy
Right.
who's supposed to enforce it. And then when they do away with the home plate umpire, how are they going to monitor that?
When they go to robots? Bobby?
I don't know. Ask Boston Scientific.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys this. I went to a Florida State League game at the end of last year. It was one of the last 2 or 3 games that Tampa had. My wife and I wanted to see the woman manager actually manage a game. But granted, this is a whole season of them doing it, but it went off seamlessly with the clock. By that time they had gotten adjusted to it, and it just happened. There was not a ball called because of somebody taking too much time or a strike called. It just happened. Now, the first time somebody calls a ball on Mike Trout next year because he's taking too long to get back into a box or be ready for a pitcher, that's going to be interesting.
That's going to be different. Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to take some adjustment time.
Yeah. I had a similar experience watching Carolina League games that, they seem to take to it pretty well. But, to your point, these are 19 and 20-year-old kids. They're not, people on the second maxi contract after their rookie deal. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
Going back to my earlier statement, if I go back and recall all the games that I watched on TV in the 60s, etc., you didn't have the problem with the batters spending that much time outside the batter's box. I mean, it's something we've allowed to happen, that certainly certain actions can be pulled back. But, if you got to analyze, where did we evolve from, so you know where to fix?
Well, Bobby,
you have to take
example I always use is Game 7 of the Pirates-Yankees World Series, which was a 10-9 game, which had 6 pitchers used on each side or something close to that, and it was done in 2 hours and 36 minutes. Now that's commercial time, obviously plays into that, right?
Yeah.
But let's move it forward, I don't know, 15 years, mid-70s, and you've got Mike Hargrove being called a human rain delay. So it was starting. I don't know what the time is, but it was starting. And you're right, it's been allowed. And now they're going to try and not allow it.
What I think is going to be an interesting concept. The minor leagues only have 2 umpires in most games. You're going to have more than 2 umpires in a major league game. So I know you'll have a crew chief, but there's going to be 4 heads involved instead of 2. And like last year in the Florida State League, the umpire, if he made a close pitch and he called it a ball, the other manager could appeal it. And then for whoever looks at it, says it's a strike, they change it from a ball to a strike. So, I mean, I think there are a lot of things that happened last year that either going to get tweaked or they're going to have to figure out who's going to be in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just look at all the time that's wasted on teams getting ready to challenge for an instant replay.
Oh, well.
Okay. I mean, that has been a total disaster because they need to do it right at that moment. They shouldn't be calling upstairs to find out, should I go ahead and ask for a review or not? I mean, just all of those have really taken away from the game.
Has anybody here ever umpired? I'm curious. Mark, you have?
Yeah, but it was, it was Little League.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My idea about this, and I'd be interested to hear from an umpire, is I don't think they should allow for challenges. I think that they should get somebody who is trained as an umpire and can be cross-trained as a video umpire and give you a fifth umpire in every game, stick him up in the booth and let him make a call quickly or not to overrule his 4 guys who are down on the field. And give it to the umpires and let them umpire the game. That's my thought, but I'm curious to know what an umpire would think.
Yeah.
That is very similar to what the NHL does. When they call up, they call some guy there in Toronto, and he's watching every game, and he's watching
on video.
The call.
Yeah.
Do NHL coaches have the ability to challenge things?
Yes,
They do.
They do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, luckily, I'm talking with a new Northern New England chapter next Monday, and Perry Barber, who has done a lot of umpiring, is planning to come to that. So I'll ask her.
Please.
Yeah.
Do.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see if that's something that they would be behind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've got a union and they got to be wrapped into these discussions.
Yeah. I mean, my gut, having heard her talk about this, is I think anything that would empower the umpires to do their job, she would appreciate.
Makes sense.
And so, if it's something, if the intent is, and if the sense is that having that fifth umpire would basically take that decision or take the need to weigh in on that decision away from the umpires on the field and just have another person, as part of the crew who is equally empowered to do that, my sense, knowing her, would be she would be okay with that. But again, I'd want her to weigh in on that. I don't want to speak for her.
Yeah,
How many different angles do their cameras go ahead and, for instant replays? How many could they see? Because I remember Bill Matthews talking about this as the official scorer.
Yep.
Okay, and all the different angles he has access to. It's almost like, maybe even put it in the hands of the official scorer. Okay, he has to make a decision anyway on a lot of these things. He could work in tandem, like you say, Sam. Maybe the fifth umpire works in tandem with the official scorer, and boom, make a decision right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you guys get the sense that managers are in love with the idea that they can do these challenges? Because the concept of when to challenge and when to hold your challenges back, I mean, that's all lost on me. I just wanted to get it done right and keep the game moving along, because this is where we started. How much time this takes up.
How many times do we see the manager? He's looking over at the guy. Get on the phone.
No, they
And
got
he's
a
waiting.
guy for that.
And the umpires are allowing him extra time to say, okay, I'm going to challenge it. I'll let you challenge it.
Mm-hmm.
But this,
My
and they go to this.
thoughts, my question is, are these experiments really going to make the difference that Major League Baseball is looking for? Everybody says shorten the game. Okay. So now we just shorten the game 20 minutes. Okay. Is that is that has that made a huge effect on ticket sales and people watching?
I wonder about that.
Yeah.
Well, as prices go up, and you shorten the game, your cost per minute's just gotten even worse.
Yeah,
Right.
and Bobby, I get that. Return on investment for the fan. I love watching a 2.5 hour, 3 hour game. Give me all I can get. Okay. If I'm looking at a minute 90, an hour 90, whatever. It's like going to a movie. There's a beginning and there's an ending. Just give it to me right up front and let me know what it's going to be.
It's supposed to be.
I like to see everything that happens during a game.
Let me play.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a day at the ballpark, not a movie at the ballpark.
Right. Right.
Well, you have to remember we're all SABR members.
Yeah.
Baseball fan.
Our opinion doesn't count, Woody.
Example of the sporting ticket buying population, particularly young people, kids, for example.
That's true. That is true.
I don't think shortening the game is going to get kids back into it. They're right here with the thumbs, with the video games. That I think the only thing that gets kids back into it are parents, that want their kids outdoors breathing fresh air.
I get it.
Yeah.
I just don't see that anymore.
Well, the longer the game, the more expensive it can also become for the parent, because he's got to buy more.
You've got to buy more hot dogs and
So the vendors, by going to a shorter game, it's going to hurt their revenue stream.
Yeah, it definitely will.
Mm-hmm.
That you stop selling that $7 bottle of soda, you know.
Right.
That's why I always say minor league baseball is the best bang for your buck.
Certainly is.
Absolutely.
Mark, we went to Clearwater together. I had a
Yep.
good time there. I enjoyed minor league a great deal. Yeah.
Hey, Tuesday nights are
It's
dog
much
nights.
more intimate.
Mhm.
More intimate with the fans.
I used to have season tickets for the Reading Phillies for many years. And I used to love taking my family for the
Oh, it's great.
fireworks afterwards. And, the entertainment value, the bang for your buck, dollar hot dog night, and, stuff like that. At one point, they used to have $2 bear night, which, and it didn't get out of hand. It wasn't, it was always a family ballpark.
Yeah.
But to me, and I just said this to somebody the other day, if you're upset with Major League Baseball, invest in minor league baseball. That's where it is for me.
Right now, the hottest ticket in baseball is the Savannah Bananas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've done it really well. All the minor leagues have. I mean, I know the Fred Nats most intimately, but they opened up their new ballpark last year, and this year I think they set attendance records. They did very, very well, and it's a really well-run team. So
I'm considering taking a week and doing some Alabama and Mississippi minor league baseball this year.
mm-hmm.
I've done most of the North teams up north, but I haven't done anything in the South really. Anything south of Durham, I guess. And I was just looking at the leagues, and I saw that Southern League, bunch of teams in Alabama, Mississippi, 4 or 5 nights, you can get a bunch of games in and see some good baseball.
And meanwhile, Manfred is trying to kill minor league baseball. Look at how much they've retracted.
Yeah, that's the worst. That is the worst.
He reduced it. Mark, I haven't been myself, but I have a number of my friends tell me I need to get to Birmingham.
Yeah, that's one of them I want to go to.
That's a terrific one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Great. Well, I wanted to let all of you know I dropped a link to my Tableau Public workbook in the chat, and I'll also post that to the chapter page on the member portal, so you can see it there.
I'm sorry, Adam. I'm curious about the errors part.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know if it's within what you did to be able to understand the why. And maybe you were getting to this before, but
Mm-hmm.
errors went up notably.
Yeah, they did. They did.
And one of the things that I have said about the shift, and this does not necessarily come into the data that you're talking about, but I'll get there, is that there's a difference between, well, there's two things. There's the analytics that go into the shift,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the shift.
Right.
So for a moment, one of my thoughts about this is not so much shift as it is aimed at the analytics part. And that is, I feel like analytics would have kept Ozzie Smith from being Ozzie Smith.
Mm-hmm.
The positioning of somebody would have reduced his ability to do the insanely wonderful
Right.
things that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that what they're trying to address with banning the shift and keeping two guys on each side and whatnot? I don't know, and I hope so. Could that be why guys are getting to more balls and not handling them well?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is that the why? I guess is what.
Yeah. Something I've been thinking about a lot is this, are these rule changes aimed at increasing the predictability of the game in some ways, while increasing the opportunity for the things that, I guess, whether it's surveys or, you know, market research or whatever it is, say that people like. That if they want to see scoring, okay, let's do things that will, you know, get pitchers more inside their head, or, you know, force them to be less deliberative, or force them to work more quickly. I'm not quite sure about the errors. I think what you're suggesting makes a lot of sense. You know, that on the one hand, it's kind of standardizing where the players are supposed to be situated. So if they're younger as they are and they haven't developed the ball handling skill as much as they would have in a couple of years, that might lead to more errors. But it also leads to more unpredictability, which, I don't know, is that the desired thing or not? You know, because the pitch clock, you can argue, promotes predictability, but on the other hand, it doesn't. You know, not allowing the shift or restricting the shift enhances predictability or detracts from predictability. I think, you know, you can look at it either way. It's interesting.
Well, the increase in the variance of the double plays, the wider
Mhm.
scatter in that graph,
Right.
predictability, right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I'm looking at a statistic. A pitcher whose team behind him makes less errors, okay, pitches to a 255 batting average. The more errors, 273.
Okay.
So this
Yeah.
is a psychological factor
Yeah.
on a pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 20 points in average
Mm-hmm.
on the team behind him,
Mhm.
resulting in the pitcher giving up more hits.
Giving up more hits, right.
Yep.
But presumably that would correct, well, the ERA wouldn't be affected because the ERA doesn't account for errors.
Right. It's after the error.
Right.
Is what,
Right.
That's
Yeah.
what they're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
After
Yeah.
the error,
Interesting.
a pitcher who pitches with no errors behind him pitches to a 255 average against the team, whereas more errors, 273.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Psychological effect on pitchers.
Well, it could be a harder hit higher batting average, better hitters, harder hit balls, more errors. That could be what's
Sure.
going
Sure.
Mhm.
But this is a study that they did. Very
Mhm.
interesting.
Cool.
Adam, I'm curious because I just happened to see this morning as I knew we were going to hear from you tonight. There's a story by Jason Stark where he talked to a lot of GMs about how they feel like these rule things are going to play out actually on the field in the majors.
I haven't seen that yet, but I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His angle was to talk to some and kept some of them off the record so they can make some guesstimates. And, you know, one of the points is that, and you're already apparently seeing it, I think this was Jason's story, that roster construction is being changed by the fact of what people are anticipating is going to be happening. And they pointed to the Pirates' two signings so far. G-Man Choi, who was with the Rays, I guess they traded for him. And then they signed Carlos Santana. And those are like two of the top three left-handed hitters who were getting robbed by the shift.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they went after those two guys, knowing that the shift isn't going to be there. And you know,
Right.
you're the Pirates. You're looking for every edge you can possibly get on the cheap, because neither of those players is terribly expensive. But I don't know. It's all kind of fascinating. I am looking forward to seeing how it's going to play out on the field.
Yeah. No, it really is.
You know, then the other factor is too, you have pitchers who have been in the major leagues for 10 years who have never pitched with a pitch clock.
Mm-hmm.
You got guys who are, as of this year, going to start being, you know, using a pitch clock. How's that going to affect the guys who have been around 10 years?
Right.
As opposed to the guys, you know, and if they're doing that, are they doing it in all of the minors now? Are they now going to have all minor leagues have a pitch clock?
Right.
So that pitchers come up, you know, through A, double A, triple A with a pitch clock.
Yeah.
And how's that going to change, Bobby? How's that going to change the look of major league pitching in the future? You know, because now it's going to be groomed. They're literally going to be groomed with a pitch clock.
When you speed this up, the communication between the pitcher and the catcher might get crossed.
Absolutely.
You might see wild pitches go up, and pass balls might go up.
Errors.
Yeah, then you'll
Less errors, right?
You might see more walks go up, and then that's how you turn into getting the more runs. Yes.
Well, how often have you seen the game stop where a guy's adjusting his microphone between him and the catcher? I couldn't believe how many times I saw that this year.
Yeah.
Right.
Adam, did you look at walks and pass balls and that sort of thing?
I didn't look at walks and pass balls. Here, let me share my screen again. Hold on a sec. Let me get back to Zoom here. Yeah, I just want to share what we're looking at. So I didn't look at walks, but I did look at on-base percentage. And so OBP did definitely go up, and OBP will account for walks. But I didn't isolate those.
Walks are factored in,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's where the clumping that you were talking about really shows itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and these two trend lines are virtually identical, and the p-values are very, very low.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another thing, the horizontal scatter in the 2022 data is much greater there.
Mm-hmm. Here it sure is. Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Well, I really appreciate being able to walk through this with you.
This was
Adam,
lots
you
of
gave us a
fun.
lot to think about, that's for sure.
So that's
Thanks.
Is Major League Baseball going to do some analytics like this and publish it? Have you heard anything about that?
Oh, about the minors doing that? No.
Well, their minors are doing it at the behest of the majors, right?
Right. Yeah.
Majors, are they going to publish an analysis of this?
Oh, I'd love to see that, but I haven't heard of it. They might look to us for something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Well, it seemed like if you are managing something like that, you'd want to find out what the impact was, right?
Hmm.
They're not going to do anything, or they're going to do something, keep it secret.
Yeah. Well, you've definitely given me some good things to think about, and so I might even come back to you as I think of writing this article with maybe some more questions or to just run some things by you.
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay.
Was that a singular you or a plural you?
All of you. Singular, all of you. Yeah.
Royal you.
The royal you, exactly. Yeah. I'll use the royal we to say the royal we will be coming to the royal you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's odd Major League Baseball would not be interested in some evidence of the outcome.
Yeah. What, a large organization making decisions that aren't based on evidence?
Well,
Well, I mean, baseball is unusual in its emphasis
Right.
on stats, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if this isn't one reason. Might they just leave that to teams to do their individual analysis of that and
Mhm.
use that as a competitive advantage or disadvantage? Let
Right.
the teams figure it out themselves.
Well, yeah, but the rules are going to be common across all teams.
Yeah, the rules are going to be across MLB. Yeah.
The rules have been common for all pitching standards anyway and hitting standards. Why do we even have scouts then?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully to still scout a little bit.
Well, you know,
Well,
when you got
the reality is they're using less and less scouts.
yes. And-
Well,
but-
it may be that pendulum may be swinging back a little bit, Mark. At least I'm kind of hoping that it is.
Less scouts on the road, more videotape.
Well, probably true, but I'm talking about people with eyes on ball players as opposed to number crunching. I'm thinking that it's swinging back. Yeah, there were not as many scouts at that minor league game I went to in last September as I was accustomed to seeing, and particularly at the end of the year when you're trying to see, and it was a very small number of people over there behind home plate at Tampa.
With the reduction in the minor league teams, I think you're going to see a higher level at the college level because that's where people are going to go.
You might be right.
That's going to be the route.
Mm-hmm.
Might be right, Bobby.
Yeah.
What do you guys say? You want to call it a night?
Yeah, Adam, thanks a lot.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, thanks again for having me.
I
And
really enjoyed it.
great. Well, let's keep the conversation going. You were a great group of people to talk with. I really appreciated all of your questions and feedback. And so, yeah, I'm going to keep working on this.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very nice.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Great
much.
presentation.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you
Adam.
very much. My pleasure. All right. Good night, everyone.
And thanks for putting this on, guys.
Yeah.
Without
Hey,
a doubt.
Hey, Thomas,
Yes,
I
welcome.
think in
So,
the last meeting, somebody had mentioned something about they do like an open type thing on Sunday nights where you just
Oh,
shoot
yeah.
the shit about baseball. Are we going to consider something like that? Is that something we can talk about Saturday?
I'm down.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm in for that.
all right.
One thing I wanted to present you guys, I actually work at the Roush-Lopez Museum, the Tampa Baseball Museum at the Roush-Lopez House. And
Are
I
you
know
going to take over, Josh?
No, no. I know you guys had thought about maybe coming on SABR Day.
Yeah.
To see-
Yes, I contacted you.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, and then we heard from one of the other chapter members. So we were just curious as to where you guys were at with that. as far as your thoughts on maybe coming on Sabre Day, or because in one of the other emails, someone had mentioned maybe doing a different, maybe doing something different than that.
No. I was trying to do that on Sabre Day in February,
Okay.
and then in January we were going to go to the little Cooperstown in St. Pete.
Oh, okay.
So it was one event for 1 month, one event for another month, and it was going to give me time until I found a place for something to do for March, which I haven't really thought of yet. But since Mark's got a place that we could go to a library,
Yeah.
perhaps we'll do something like that, or maybe even catch a spring training game in March.
Okay. Yeah, because like I said, we wanted to make sure we were representing with you guys. Obviously, with part of the chapter name being Al Lopez.
Mhm.
So and certainly, Gina would be the person to talk to at our museum. But I think if you guys did Sabre Day, because I know every Sabre group tries to do something different, and with you guys having the chapter name and plus the Tampa Baseball Museum at the Al Lopez House, we definitely want to if you guys can make it work, and we are all about having you guys come, because I think you would be a great ambassador for the museum.
So Josh, Chantel did send a email that she was leaving.
Yes.
And is Gina taking over? Who is, or do we know yet? Or
right now they haven't announced, and even to us. So I think they're still in the process. But Gina is our group person, as far as is the contact person for group rates and whatnot. And I know that she had mentioned probably $10 for the members since we would be open and to general public that day too. But yeah, I can give you Gina's number, or I can send it to you guys later, whatever you guys want to do.
Okay.
Well, what we should also do in preparation when we do have that visit, we should get ourselves a poster made up or something that can be left there so anybody who visits there can also then reach out to our SABR organization.
That's a great idea, Bobby. And for what it's worth, I'd be happy to do that. Josh, if we made up some flyers or something, could we drop them off to you guys? And
I think the flyers would be the best thing, honestly, because then, we could pass them out, or they could be there somewhere to represent.
Tom, you good with that?
You know what? I'm awesome with that, because I work at the UPS store, so I could print those out.
Awesome.
Great, excellent.
So, but go ahead and make something up, email it to me. I'll take it into work.
Maybe put a QR code on there, make it as easy for people as possible.
Yeah, we could do that. That's great. Yeah, that works.
It does seem something like you said with the QR codes that people are gravitating towards. So, and if it's something small, especially out of towners, that come in, because we've gotten people from all over the place, and then they can just take it. They can easily take it back with them, or they can just go ahead and scan it and and they have it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm posting our meetings on the Facebook page.
Okay.
If we can draw people over to the Facebook page a little bit, that would be great, because I'm trying to put it on there at least twice, the week before and the week of our meetings. And I think developing a synergy with you guys, Josh, would be great for both of us, for all of us.
And I know that Chantal feels the same way. I know that we're going to have a new CEO, but I think, because I actually have done some presentations up at the North Florida chapter, the Buck O'Neill chapter, on Buck O'Neill. So, and I did a presentation about the Tampa Baseball Museum there, and it was pretty well received. And I think they're going to do a trip down at some point, probably during season, and make it a junket for the guys. But I think you're right. I think the partnership that we can make, and that's what I told them. I said, this group is international. I try to make sure they understand at the museum, because not everybody at the museum is baseball people. I mean, it's the Ybor City Museum Society, as you guys know. So I was I've only been there a couple of months. I'm one of the more heavy baseball persons of the group. So that's when I told them about you guys. And I asked Matt, the president up in the North Florida chapter, and that's right before you guys had kind of rebooted. And I know that you guys have had some, interactions with them at different conventions and whatnot. But no, I think, obviously not knowing who the next CEO is going to be, we're kind of, getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. But I think it's, you know, and we don't know either, but like I said, Gina is the person to contact, and I'll just let them know that you guys it sounds like you still want to do, you know, visit the museum on Sabre Day, correct?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Good. And like I said, I can, you know, and I, you know, I can give you guys some of my contact information later too. But yeah, that way, I think we definitely want to build a rapport with you guys, because there's no greater ambassadors and knowledgeable people than the Sabre Group.
Well, and then also we can build upon that, and it's Sabre National. Go ahead and get your name out there, because with all the tourists that come down here, they know that's another place in Tampa Bay for them to go visit.
Very true. Yeah. You're correct. And you know, and to be honest with you guys, you know, we've been open for a little over a year, but you know, the press has died down. You know, you get that first initial, you know, shock, you know, and everybody's interested in it, but you know, it's sustaining, and you're right, Bobby. Anything that you guys could do, and vice versa. I mean, I think that we could forge a real partnership, and starting on Sabre Day, I think is a great building block, because you know, with the two names, you know, with Al Lopez being in both of our names, I know I keep saying it, but that's just a link right there.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think too, and you know, we can work this in tandem with Little Cooperstown, downtown St. Pete, at the St. Pete Museum of History. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Where maybe some of your brochures go down there, and Little Cooperstown can go ahead and put some of their stuff in your facility as well.
Right.
You know, and a lot of people come to visit during spring training, obviously, and that could drive some traffic for you guys and them on a, you know, a junket, basically, you know, because they come in for 3-4 days, and they'll go to Tampa, Dunedin, you know, Clearwater, in between, you know, the mornings or the afternoons they're not playing, they can go over to the museums.
Right. True.
Mark, you just saying that reminded me. Does anybody know, has there been an announcement where the Rays are going to be?
Not official.
Now, the last I heard was that they were probably going to hold it at the Trop.
They will. They'll be here.
That's the last word I heard, but
Sure.
that's
Okay.
not
And
official.
that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Right. But because you know, they can't go down to the waterfront anymore. They play soccer over there.
Right. Jack
so,
Russell.
well, there you go. Jack Russell's still standing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's where they were playing soccer, right? At Jack Russell.
Oh, Al
No,
Lang.
Al Lang.
Oh, Al Lang. I meant Al Lang. Sorry.
Yeah.
They said City of
St.
Palms
Pete.
was interested.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wonder if there was going to be another team in our area this spring. So, yeah, just yeah, spring training would be a perfect time to get back to what we were saying.
Love the hat, by the way.
I just reached for it as soon as I just reached for it. Yeah,
I'm wearing my shirt, but nobody can see it.
I was a member when it opened, and I gotta re-up my membership because I was an inaugural member. So
Yeah.
I went to the opening when Lou Piniella was there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I asked him a
Tom.
question. I asked him, I said, out of all the players you've crossed paths with, who was the best player you've ever dealt with? And he said Ken Griffey Jr. was the greatest players he's ever seen.
I believe it.
I believe it.
And
Guy's
you know, the
a
thing about,
stud, pure athlete.
yeah, I mean, and you know, I was talking to, we had some people, you know, Cincinnati fans come in the other day, and I said, you know, you can't, all you have to do is look at Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. and realize that's genetics. That's not steroids. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, especially as you get older, they just look more and more alike.
Oh well, yeah, because Junior's putting the pounds on now.
Don't we all?
Yeah, we do, Mark. Yes, we do.
But no, I appreciate, thank you guys for your time today. You know, let me kind of chime in, and like I said, my intent is to be as many meetings as possible. Like I said, I'm up here in the boonies in Brooksville, so I make the trek, you know.
That is a far commute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it gets even worse because during the season, I just started this past year as a fan host at the Rays. So yeah,
It's
yeah.
even further.
Yeah, so I don't know, you know, you could question sometimes my sanity when it comes to things, but I love baseball.
Josh, the price of gas is almost under $3 a gallon.
coming
Thank
down.
God.
Almost.
Yeah, it's getting better, thank God.
Yeah,
Josh,
very.
if you're going to be at Rays games, they're in my backyard. I live in downtown, near downtown St. Pete. I'll come find you.
There you go. There you go.
I hope we can get some people at Peepaws on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Oh man.
Yeah, I got
Thomas.
commitment for the holidays.
Thomas, if you want to do some kind of write-up, I'll put it on the Facebook page.
Okay.
You know, hopefully get a few people from that. I know Kenny
right.
Clausen wanted to be here tonight for the meeting, but he had a work thing going on. He said he might not be able to make it, but he's the type of guy that would come Saturday. So, you know.
All right. I almost didn't make this one myself.
Oh,
I
geez.
got a guy at my job got fired, so now everybody's got more hours, and we
Nice.
were already on overtime anyway.
Yeah, there you
Ho,
go.
ho, ho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Christmas.
Besides,
When
All
is
right.
the,
All right.
when is the time you guys were talking about Little Cooperstown? What
We're
was the
gonna do
date?
that on
January, I think.
January.
Yeah,
January.
January.
Again, I'm
I-
close by there. I don't want to miss on that.
Okay, I'm gonna send another email out again on that one.
Great.
Just
Okay.
to keep everybody
That
informed.
was on the 14th, January 14th.
January
All right.
14th.
That's a Saturday, right?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah,
Fingers crossed.
Thomas, send another email. I'll put it up next week after I put up Peepaws this week. I don't want to confuse anybody.
Now, I happen to be a member of the St. Pete Museum of History, so if they're going to charge per head, I wouldn't have to pay. So that may be something you put in there if you're a member of any of these organizations. So we don't end up, you know.
Bobby, I thought you were going to say you're going to pay for all of us.
I ain't that ho ho ho.
Attaboy.
Always worth a try.
Bobby, do you know Rui? Do you know Rui Farias? I'm guessing.
Oh
you do.
yeah, great guy.
Yeah. Rui coached my son's soccer team when he played at.
Oh, super,
my-
super.
My kid played at St. Pete High, and Rui coached.
If you haven't done it yet, there is a great trolley tour via the St. Pete Museum of History. Rui is the executive director who rides on it, tells you all about the history of downtown St. Pete, from Rosa Park all the way over to the Venetian Islands. He's fabulous.
Can I do it and heckle him?
Of course.
There you go.
Good guy.
He is, yeah.
You know, there's another reason why baseball is declining. More kids are doing soccer.
Believe me, it was an arrow to my heart, Mark, when my son basically chose one over the other. It was but
So who was the idiot at the Rays who allowed the Ted Williams Museum go away?
You know-
that was not a good choice.
No, stupid. Absolutely
Yeah,
stupid.
I went down there. to find out about that. Yeah.
Where
but
is
what
all
they
that
did was
material now?
They took it out so that they could have a space for more raised
Executive
stuff,
offices.
because
Yeah, I heard.
yeah. they wanted to make
Stupid.
like a raised museum.
But that
Well,
was one of the best benefits of bringing people there, saying you can go to a little Cooperstown, so to speak,
Yeah,
right there for
Yep.
free.
and people still, when I work the games, people still ask about it.
Yeah.
It's and I think you guys are right. Not speaking on behalf of the Rays, so I don't get fired, but it's one of those things that people, it's a destination point, and just that, and people, and I mean, I grew up in Citrus County when we had the original here up in Citrus, and when we lost it once and then to lose it again, yeah, it's you guys are right. I mean, it was a jewel of Tropicana. It really was.
Yeah.
Where is all that material?
Most of it went to Worcester.
That's my understanding, but
Yeah.
people are pretty quiet about whatever's
There's a-
going on. The executives are still
There's a lot still in the closets down there.
right, and I know that they were generous enough to a couple of the items from regarding Buck O'Neill, obviously having spent time in Sarasota. There's a couple of items that they went ahead and gave to the Tampa Baseball Museum, so that was nice of them.
Right.
But yeah, the executives are still there. Like Dave is still there, and I know they still do the charity auctions during some of the high-profile games.
Yeah.
But you guys are right. I mean, and when you look on the websites, there's really not much mention of what's going on with it.
Who's that POC that that has that foundation that does the Ted Williams and what was it? He does Mickey Mantle stuff as well. There was some guy that was doing auctions for that stuff, and he did it there at the Thrasher games too.
The only one I know is the only one I know is Dave, and he's the executive director of the Ted Williams Museum. I don't know about the other.
Just one last thing I'll mention that I am working on, and hopefully it'll come to fruition sometime in the spring, is I'm working on bringing the other, the Negro League, Other Boys of Summer. There's a great documentary on the Negro Leagues, and I'm actually working on bringing that to St. Pete as part of, I'm with the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at Eckerd College, and I'm trying to be one of the sponsors for that. And I'm reaching out to Ken Welsh of the city of St. Petersburg and the Rays, wanting them to put up the money to go ahead and have them stage that down here. And that would be quite a big event.
Yeah.
Where, Bobby, where would they, at Eckerd, or would they go to the Carter Woodson Center? Where would they put that?
Haven't decided, because it'll be based on what we think the expectation will be as far as the number of people. Okay, because I may try to get that even to have the Mojave stage it, because it depends. A lot of some places have put it on where they've had upwards of 500 people. Okay. But if we can get 200 people, that'd be fabulous. And we could actually do that at Eckerd College with 200 people.
That would be fantastic. I'd love that.
And Bob Kendrick, when I first stumbled across this a couple of summers ago, Bob Kendrick actually got on Zoom for the event as well. The president of the Negro
that
League
guy's
Hall of
got
Fame.
magnetism
He's a great guy.
Coming out of him.
It's actually manufactured by Tumbleweed Production, is the girl who went ahead and put that whole thing together, and it's fantastic. If you haven't seen it, to get a chance to see the documentary, but I'm hoping to bring it here live.
That's wonderful.
Sounds great.
Yep.
All right, boys, I got to check. I got to head out. So.
Yeah, I got to go too.
Saturday, Tom, what time? 4:30?
4:30. The food trucks come at 5.
Okay.
Grab a bite to eat. Frosty cold one.
I plan on being there.
Hope you guys have a great time on Saturday.
Yeah. Take care.
All right,
Take care.
See you there.
Be well.
Happy holidays.
Josh, you're going to make it too, right?
I have to work. I'll be at the museum.
What time's it close Saturday?
No, we're open Thursday, Friday, Saturdays.
Yeah, but what time does it close?
4:30.
Oh, okay.
Perfect
On
time.
your way home, make a
loop down to down to Pinellas and make your.
Pinellas
I
Park.
think it's in
Buy you a
I
beer.
think it's in Largo, right? Or Clearwater.
I thought it was Pinellas Park.
Pinellas Park. That's what I meant. Yeah. Pinellas Park.
Come
That's
on,
what I
Josh,
meant.
I'll buy you a beer.
Off of 49th and 62nd.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah. All right.
We'll see how that goes.
see
I
who I
think we got
see.
family plans, but I appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
Next
Take
time
care.
then. All right. See you, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.